The following is an Operation Podcast production.
How do we continue to put in the reps, right? We go to the gym, we work out, we do push-ups, we do pull-ups, we do squats. But how do we do the mental reps to practice living through love and choosing truth and being self-aware of like, am I freaking out right now? Am I fragmented? Why am I snapping? And where's this tone coming from? Because sometimes we're like, I don't have a tone. I'm not saying anything with a tone, but maybe there is something way, way down there that is a tone or something more poignant. So who knows? I think it's not that, it's surrendering to the fact that we don't know. I love it.
She said that she hate me, I hate me too. I can always tell when you're lying, girl, you're see-through. All these miles away, yeah, I just wanna see you. Baby, give me good face, she hit me like seafood. Remember when I saw you, hi, it's nice to meet you. Know my old girl salty, she just wanna be you. I'm a dog, no Monty's, I don't wanna leave you. Once you're right here, I just don't wanna mistreat you.
Choosing to be a victim or choosing not to be a victim, I figured out for myself. I have a journaling practice every morning. I'll journal, I'll kind of like set the intention for the day and I'll do a reflection in the evening. And one of the questions I've actually been asking myself, which is what you were saying kind of like before we hit record, that kind of like flicked this off in my mind. I asked myself, where did I play the victim today? And it was really interesting because I rank myself every day. Like I'll give myself 1 out of 10, can't use the 7, 7's a cop-out number. And every day that I have a 9 or a 10 out of 10 day, I've never played the victim. And I find that really interesting. So when it comes to choosing to play the victim or not play the victim, like what comes up for you?
I think it comes down to, I think most people don't even realize they're playing the victim. So the self-awareness of like, am I being a victim right now? Am I choosing this? So if we use the pandemic as an example, the pandemic hit everybody, all human beings. Yeah. We all had different businesses. We all lost money. We all had to change. And you could have reacted, victim-y, oh, what was me? Or be like, yo, this is happening to everyone. What can I do to make it better for me and my family? How can I respond? How can I change my business? How can I show up now in a new world? So it's a choice. I think it's a choice. And hopefully people are unaware of how much or how often they're choosing to be a victim and not actually just choosing it on purpose. But then there are people that just commiserate and want to be that way as well too. But I think that's more of a negative, pessimistic person.
Do you think that comes down to a lot of the time, like the environment someone's in?
Environment helps, of course. And realizing that we can choose our destiny and we can choose our path. But I've done work in prisons and I did a mural and I had this talk with a lot of people that were in there from 35 years, 18 years, 12 years, 9 years, all kinds of different years. They all did the most heinous crime you can do. They took a life. But most of them, what they thought and what they said is like, oh, I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't have a choice. The life was to go be a gangbanger. The life was to go be a criminal. The reaction was to go take this to this level and make this choice. And they didn't think it was a choice. They just did it. And that to me was like, oh, that's an aha moment because we do all have freedom of choice, but do we realize that we have that choice? Right? We hear all these stories of people coming up in the hood and coming out and making something of themselves, but they chose to get out of there. They chose to move forward. They chose to see another path. And maybe they did have some people that said, hey, don't come down gangs with me. You need to go do that. And that was also a battle. But again, it comes down to a choice. Last
time we were together and we had the conversation, the thing that I admire and respect so much with what you do is the work, the brilliant work that you produce that I absolutely, excuse the pun, that I love. But for me, I walked away from that conversation and from spending that time with you, being able to see a better model of living because I then wanted to apply the label to myself as an artist. And I really want to consciously choose the labels that I put upon myself and don't put upon myself. When it comes to the labels that you put upon yourself, Ruben? Do you mean, how do you think about that? How do you choose what role you're going to play?
Good question. So recently I've just really honed in and painted a mural and put a t-shirt that says human. So I think we should all choose to be human first. And then we realize like, oh, you're a human, I'm a human. Does anything else matter? Then we can have a conversation, connect. Oh, hey, I'm a human named Ruben. You're a human named Chris. Cool. Oh, you're Chris, a man. Awesome. I'm Ruben, a man and a father. Like you can start going down the path of like, let's unpack who we are. But let's not define like, oh, I'm Ruben, he's a street artist, he's a dad, and he's really fit and healthy, so he must be a jock. And like some stereotypes and things that start happening out of the way. Yeah, I'm a jock, but I was actually going to school to be a doctor, right? That surprises people. So I think if we look at it as like human, and I have a hard time saying like I'm an artist or a painter. People are like, oh, you're just a painter. I'm like, I think I'm an overall creator because I write books, I have the podcast, and like wherever they stick me and give me the opportunity to share my message, I say yes. I did a TV show. I was the host. I've never hosted before. But if I said, hey, I've never done this, or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not going to do that, then I would have passed. Instead, I said, look, I can create in everything I can. Why not try it, take the risk, see where it goes?
Let me make sure I remember this correctly, because you transition from real estate to this life that you're living now. What do you think you learned through that transition and changing the labels to going from real estate to creator that you can help someone else apply to themselves?
So let's back it up a little bit. So I was a 3-sport athlete and I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Then I dabbled in real estate. In that first month in real estate, I made 18 grand. $500,000 in debt, bald, fat, 10 more years of school. 18 grand, 19 grand, 20 grand, and so on. So I took that path. But 2008 hit, I lost it all. And I used money as, hey, I had diamond watches, 26-inch rims, houses, and boats and bikes, and, you know, the Vegas lifestyle. That's what we had. And I realized, like, that's not me and that's not who I am. And then I transitioned into finance and found myself back into that rat race. I was depressed. I was miserable. I'm like, what am I doing with myself? And then I finally, cutting it short a little bit as far as how deep we go into it, but then I became an artist and I owned it. But I didn't become an artist in that moment. I've been an artist my whole life. I've always drawn, I've always painted, I've always created. But the world of the construct I came in was like, go be a doctor, go to the corporate world, go get this job, go, you know, build toward your retirement, buy a house, right? The American dream. That's really putting you a cog in the system.
Congratulations on becoming a father.
Thank you.
Amazing. We were talking about at the start of this conversation about having awareness of being a victim, not playing a victim, creating more freedom. How do you want to be able to instill those principles or understandings or philosophy for your son?
Another good one. So what my wife and I are doing is actively working on us being the best humans that we can be, because they're sponges. I mean, he's 15 months now. Everything I do, he's doing it. Like I brush my teeth. He just runs around the house brushing his teeth. So it's like, it's the most amazing thing. So if we are showing up in the world the way we would like him to learn and show up, that means we've got to practice on ourselves so that we can be better communicators. We can be more self-aware. We can respond versus react. We can be, you know, knowing that we have choices and knowing that we aren't victims to everything going on. So he'll see that and he'll recognize that. It's not so much telling him, it's just being it.
I absolutely love that. In my office, I have a Marcus Aurelius quote printed up on the wall with some other artworks, and it is, do not argue what a good man should be one. And I just think that's so prevalent for today as well. Like if we just take care of ourselves, if we just look after this person, how I show up, that's a fundamental principle, because that's what I can control at the end of the day. My thoughts and actions is the only thing I can control. Like why am I looking for outside circumstances or validations? And so for me, what does love mean to you? And I'm sorry, this is like a head twisting term, but it's something like I wanted to come and be able to talk to you about. What does love mean to you?
Love is whatever you need it to be in that moment that you need it. It's a noun, it's a verb. It's a way of life, it's an action. You can say I love you to a human being in the sense of, hey, Chris, I love you, I see you. Or my wife, different kind of love. Hey, I love you, I see you, but I'm in love with you and I love you and I'm your lover. My son, you are part of me. I see me in you, and that's love and unconditional love, and I need to love and nurture you so you can be the best to show up. But I think people throw it around like, oh, I love my watch so much. You could say that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we dumb it down in certain ways of what we're saying, and we don't realize the power it really has. And ultimately, it's also self-love. You've got to choose to love yourself. And it's not I'm the best, most amazing, most handsome guy here in the world. It's more like I love myself.
Ruben. You're pretty close.
Thank you. I'll take it. But I love myself enough to not beat myself up, to be gentle with myself, to be kind with myself. Because the world's already going to do all that for you. So why add to that? Plus, again, if we're talking about my child, he's going to see how I treat myself. We don't realize that. And kids are still unfiltered. The world hasn't put blocks and barriers in there, so they take it all in. And if I'm in the corner beating myself up and he sees it, he's like, oh, maybe that's how I need to be. So it's not so much how I define love, it's how do I use love to the moments I need it and how can I apply it?
Oh, I really love that. My favorite poet, David White, has this one on friendship. And I sent it to a really good mate of mine. And it was really interesting what he came back, and it's something that you just said there that I think is really poignant, which is the case of like, I see you. Like, Ruben, I love you, I see you, I appreciate you, I admire you, I respect you. And for me, I find it interesting because when I started this trip, I set the intention for this trip to literally connect with as much love as I possibly can with everyone that I sit down with, and to be as present as I possibly can when I sit down with these. And that's why I didn't want to do Zoom interviews, and I wanted to invest to be able to do I want to come down. I want to see, I want to wrap my arms around you. Do you know what I mean? I want to be able to look you in the eyes for real and have those little kind of like conversations that really like fill me up at the end of the day for that connection. And for me, I find truth and love very synonymous with each other. And like, what is truth right now? And for me, when it comes down to, I ask myself like two questions, like, is it true and is it useful? Is it true? Like, is it real? Or am I just making this up? Or what game am I playing? What mask am I wearing? Any of that stuff. And is it useful? Is it actually something useful for me to do in this present time right now? So when you go about you being you, Ruben, how do you best actually navigate how to live the life that you want? How do you know, what is useful to do and what's the truest thing to do?
I don't. I guess that's the best way to answer it. I don't know. But, living through love, and to answer that question is just, how do we continue to put in the reps, right? We go to the gym, we work out, we do push-ups, we do pull-ups, we do squats. But how do we do the mental reps to practice living through love and choosing truth and being self-aware of like, am I freaking out right now? Am I fragmented? Why am I snapping? Or where's this tone coming from? Because sometimes we're like, I don't have a tone. I'm not saying anything with a tone, but maybe there is something way, way down there that is a tone or something more poignant. So who knows? I think it's not that, it's surrendering to the fact that we don't know.
I love that. I love it a lot. Something I don't know, and I want to know your opinion of, especially being a creator, and a creator I really admire and respect. Where do ideas come from? When you do your work, how does it come to fruition?
Everywhere. Conversations with people. People inspire me, or a quote, and that quote could make me think of another way to say it, or interpret it, or express it. And at the end of the day, there's hundreds of artists, there's hundreds of creators, and I do it this way. There's other people that paint love and they do it their way, but I'm delivering my message and my truth in that moment, and that resonates with the viewer in whatever moment they need. And not all human beings resonate with each other, right? There's millions of coaches and trainers in the world. And if it was a competition thing, there's billions of people. They'd all be with that one best, but maybe that one best isn't the best for all these people. That's why there's so many, because we resonate with other people and we all talk differently and have different energies.
I think it was Peter Thiel that said, competition is for losers. that I really like. But when I was coming here and knowing I was going to be able to see you again, I forgot what I was reading, but don't know where it came from. Let's hope it's true. Is Mozart said, "I never composed a note. I just listened to God." And I think it's really cool. Like where does this stuff come from? Like, what is the thought? I've really sat down and tried to like meditate through. Like, what is the thought when you watch a thought come up and then suddenly it just dissipates away? And it had so much power when it was there, but then when it's gone, it's like it is nothingness at the end of the day. And what I find so fascinating is literally like I really am thankful that I get to sit here with you, just mean like in your layer, being able to like this is where you create so much. I find it fascinating is into like, well, where does it come from? Like, do you feel like the muse is coming through you?
It's more of like, I have to do this.
Ah, okay. Tell me more.
So it's there. It's something that I have to do. The experiences with humans reinforce it and give me energy back into it. Because there's times I'm painting a mural. I'm out there 12-hour days. I'm exhausted. It beats me up. Like, I'm like, whew, we're done. But the reward is when someone takes it in and then says, "Hey, Ruben, today I didn't kill myself because of your mural." And I'm like, wow, that wasn't really my initial intention, but I could see how the universal message expands. And that's what you needed to hear. We're all mirrors of each other and we all need to have these conversations, but it doesn't mean we take it away the same. So yeah, a lot of times the wall tells me what it wants, right? It's just weird. There's just things that have to be out there. I do know whenever I listen to like people, just people like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. And sometimes I may or may not do it. When I do it, it doesn't land. Right? So for now, I'm like, thank you. It's a great idea. And I've got to move on because it's not what was coming out from me naturally. But it was just like one person's idea. But I don't write it off. I just know now from enough times. For example, someone's like, get a love t-shirt in this color and go release it. And then I sell one. I'm like, no, I do black for a reason. I sell a lot of them in black.
As you can see, I really appreciate that. So that's good. Before actually coming up to LA, I was down in San Diego for a day doing a stone stacking workshop with Paul Check. And it was really cool because so much of it was actually about soul connection and being able to listen to your soul, connect with it, and it being able to guide you through decisions. And it was really inspiring for me to be like, oh no, I can now actually differentiate when I feel a calling, like, oh no, this is the right thing. This is my intuitive sense. Because even if I rationally sit down, let's say I have two options and I'm rationally trying to work out which option do I choose, it still comes down to, I feel like this is the right one. And I think that's really cool because the work you do is literally going through that feeling to let it come out in a physical form from what you're creating. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. But I'll flip it back to you.
Yeah.
When you say you're feeling it, how often do you doubt it and not actually go with the feeling?
Oh, dude, a lot.
And then what happens?
Shit.
Why don't we listen to ourselves enough? That voice, I say, listen to that voice deep inside. You know, whether it's your heart, your soul, God, whatever you want to name it, there is a voice in there. And it will guide you if we tune in. But we don't tune in. We turn on the TV instead, and there's like politics and all the crap we hear. It's just fear.
Yeah. How do you navigate spirituality in your life, Ruben?
I think you just be it. You just be it. I grew up Christian. I went to private school, and I believe in God. But I have a hard time now with the way people use religion as a weapon. They weaponize it, right? Like you lay all the books out there, the Quran, every version of the Bible, they all basically say the same thing. Allah versus God versus Jesus versus prophets. Ultimately, it's be kind and compassionate to one another. Do not kill, be married, like all the things. But at the same time, it tells us what to do, doesn't tell us what to be. To me, spirituality is about being. And can we be one with Mother Nature? Can we be one with God? What is being one with God? Because if we do it, go pray, go confess, are we really being with God, or are we just doing what someone's telling us to do? Yeah. Right? The Old Testament, they ripped the sheets of the tabernacle for a reason. You don't need a church anymore. You can talk to God directly. Why is there still so much stuff around Catholicism and priests and you have to go confess and like, really, do you? Because God in the Bible said you can just talk to me. And no one needs to see that you're talking. He even says you don't need to get on your hands and knees in front of everybody to show that you're praying to me.
So I asked the spirituality question because I kind of want to ask the other side of the pendulum that people might see, and that is like success in life. Forgot who said this, but like wisdom starts by defining terms. So how do you define success?
Previously, I've defined success by how much money I have in the bank, the status that I had, what I can show off with. And there's still a note to that. It's really nice to want and have nice things, and I want to provide that for my family. But I don't want to find the definition of who I am wrapped into that. To me, now success is doing what I love and being able to play all day, traveling, being with my family, being able to be there with my kid and my wife and all the things that we're doing now. Would we like a big old house? Yes. Would we like to fly first class more often than not? Yes. But is that going to change or make me more successful? No, that's a creature comfort. So I think it's just being happy, less depressed, less questioning, less comparison to everybody else. Right? I can compare myself to tons of other artists. I'm like, I'm not him. Well, I could say, I'm not there yet because I don't want to be him because I'm me and I can't be anyone else. But you can be like, oh, now I'm on your level. Let's go. Right? So we can always level up.
I really like that. And like for me, I had depression last year, and the thing that it immediately struck me was I don't deserve to feel bad. Like I have a multi-million-dollar business, homes around the world, an amazing wife. Like I've now 4 daughters. They're all incredible, thriving, healthy. And it was like I was like, I tick the boxes. Why do I feel like shit? Like what's going on? But what you just said I love so much because I think that was the key problem that I had was I had my identity wrapped up in so many things. And I'm like, I'm not that at all. Like I'm not that. And even recently in kind of like what spurred me to want to do this trip now was I hit a point where I'm like, well, what's the work that I want to do? Like, who do I want to be? Do I still want to be married? Like, what's the kind of father that I want to be? Like, I questioned everything. I've said this a few times. Like, there was even one day I was at the gym and I just like stopped in the middle of the gym and I just stood there for like 2 minutes. And I was like, do I even want to be this dude that does this anymore? Like, is this the person I want to show up with? And I think I'm saying all of this because of the being wrapped up in an identity. How do you think, Ruben, you choose who you want to play? Like, how do you craft Ruben to be Ruben? If you want different aspects to change, how do you go about that?
I really like to focus on personal responsibility and just realizing, like, if I want to get there, I've got to work my ass off to get there. And not asking how so much, but asking like, what is it that they did to get there and what can I do to apply to that? Because I could say, how am I ever going to be that? How am I ever going to be? And I was like, what do I need to do that and get there? But I also think it's as simple as if money was no option, like I don't have to ever pay a bill again, there's more zeros than I can count in there, I would still be doing what I'm doing now.
Do you believe the what's the common adage, like follow your passion and money will come?
I believe in it's never the right time until you make it the right time. Life is now. And yeah, if you build it, it will come. Yeah, follow your passion, it will come. But you also have to have some knowledge. Like you can't just, look, I'm an artist, but I went to business school on the streets. I was in real estate. I was a personal trainer before, and I managed a gym's training team. And then I was in real estate and built that up and did that whole thing. Then I went into finance and built that. Those were always all self-employed. I've never had a salary. I've never worked for anyone. So I learned that. So you got to be able to count on yourself and realize like, oh, I have the ability to generate money in anything that I do. You know, there's the whole, and I hate this, is like the starving artist. Oh, so you're going to be a starving artist? I'm like, the fact that that is so prevalent and everyone thinks that. Or sometimes people tell me, oh, so you're not one of those starving artists. I'm like, what does that even mean? You know, it's like, for LA, you could think I'm starving maybe. Put me in the Philippines, I'm a freaking millionaire. You know, it depends where we're at, but I think it just comes down to that.
I had a really great conversation with a great friend of mine. Honestly, I think she's one of the best mindset coaches going around. She's an absolute priestess. And we stumbled across something that was like, it was the starving artist kind of label, also very much with like the wounded healer, and how there's so many, healers that are amazing, but then yet struggle with the money, physical, material side of life as well. What's your message for them?
It's what you're focusing on. And initially, if your intention is true, to be a healer, to be a coach, to be an artist, everything else is going to follow. If you're doing it for money, it can happen. Like, I've done things for money. I was in finance. They're like, you do this and this and you can have a lot of money. And I did. And I was, again, miserable. Now I was miserable and unhappy with money. What's the difference? Mm-hmm. But if you're doing something you love truly for the intention of it, I think everything will come for you. But you have to believe it. I don't think people believe it as much as some other people may believe it in you for you.
Mm. Okay, last question then. Is it a case of, to get to belief, is it a case of courage? Is it a case of blindly going down the path? Like, what do you think it is that if I'm in a situation, I'm like, Ruben, I hear you, brother, but I fucking hate myself. I'm not loving myself. I'm in a shitty situation. I'm playing the victim for sure. What's the path forward?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, set yourself up to win. What is a quick win you could do right now to show yourself you can get out of that path? Because you already realized it. You already said, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I don't love myself. So you're already there. You're admitting it. But now what's that thing? So to me, I'm in finance making money. I'm trying to become this artist guy over here. What do I do? Let me figure out how to make money and get a quick win. It doesn't necessarily, it's not my brand yet, but like, hey, will you paint this here and I'll pay you? I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And they paid me money. I'm like, oh, I can make money as an artist. So that was one win showing me that I could do that. But look at the track history of your past. Where have you had wins? Right? Well, there's one thing that I say it every New Year's, and I hate New Year's resolutions. Right? Everyone's like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year. I'm going to this, I'm going to that. And come January 31st, you didn't go to the gym yet. Or maybe you went once and you're so damn sore and you waited 3 hours for the treadmill. Because everyone's there doing the same thing. But instead, what I say, why don't we look back at what you accomplished and what were some of your goals and where did you land? Maybe you didn't lose 30 pounds, but you lost 15. Hey, fuck, I lost 15 pounds last year. Okay, I didn't hit my goal, but I'm halfway there. What can I do this year? Try to get the other 15 or make it another 20, 25 and now build from there. So I think that's also just looking back at where have you started winning and looking, that's again, optimistic, that's non-victim, that's because we'll always fail at goals, especially if we don't really believe in them. We just throw them out there.
Well, dude, before we wrap this up, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I really admire you. I really respect you, the work that you do, the way that you show up, what you share with the world, I think is just absolutely incredible and it inspires me. It really, really does. It sets a benchmark for me that I know makes me a better person at the end of the day. So just from myself, thank you. For everyone else, where do they go to find out more about you, the work that you're doing, the podcast? Where do we go from here?
RubenRojas.com, at Ruben Rojas on IG. The podcast is called Live Through Love. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on YouTube if you want to see it. And it's 4K glory. Everything's out there, yeah.
Amazing. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Live Through Love. If you love this episode, you'll love this episode.